started, the very first thing we're doing is we're going to have our opening prayer.
As we gather today, God of love, we thank you for bringing us together on this day. Oh Lord, this is a new year. We don't know what it may bring, but we pray that you will help to make us ready for whatever may be. If we are to stand, let us do so bravely. If we are to be idle, let us do so intentionally. If we are to discern, let us do so patiently. And if we are to be still, let us do so radically. Allow this meeting in our words to glorify you and to be more. Allow us to be able to go forth with confidence and strength and wisdom. Send your Holy Spirit upon us and allow us to continue to be a beacon of light and love in your nation's capital. We ask all of these things through your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, whom you sent into this world, who makes all things possible. And let the church say, Amen.
Thank you, Sean. So the first thing that we're going to do today is vote for the Vestry candidates. There's one candidate each for the two warden positions. It's a yes or no vote. Nora Rigby, who has been the junior warden, becoming the senior warden, and Alfred Tessmeyer to become the junior warden. You can vote yes or no on them. And then we have Marion Blakey, Kay Edwards, Caroline Ferris, Nora Howe, Jack Reifer, and Jess Unger. And so among those 6 candidates, you get to vote for only 3. And we have tellers who have pieces of paper and also pencils, and they're going to come around the 4 quadrants in the room and pass those out as we have some organ music, and you all can vote. And I know the people at home, you've got your own instructions that'll be appearing on your screen so that you can vote from home. So this is last call. If anybody needs a ballot and hasn't voted, please raise your hand. Are we good? Okay, we're good. So we're going to move on now to our stewardship report with Toby Stocker.
All right, hi all. First, I want to thank all of the 282 people and families who have already pledged for 2024. We're ahead of last year in dollars pledged, and as of this past Wednesday, had $1,067,000 pledged. About 40% of our pledges have been increases from last year, which is a great help heading into the new year. This is also thanks to our wonderful stewardship committee that Carter Keithley helped me corral over the course of the season. We also benefited from some terrific testimonials about stewardship, and we hope that the parish lunch that the committee sponsored brought more awareness to pledging, even as we all enjoyed some delicious barbecue together. And we thought that Carter ordered way too much barbecue, but it wasn't the case. We had nothing left at the end. A final thanks to Rob for leading the charge in stewardship through his regular encouragement and preaching, and to the St. John's staff for helping in so many ways to make our work possible. And my last comment, for those of you who haven't yet pledged, there's still time. We accept pledges right up until the end of the year, but please don't wait that long. We'd love to increase our number of pledges this year, so if you're hesitating at all to jump in, just please do. Any size of pledge matters to us. Thanks again. It was a great year of stewardship. Thanks.
We'll welcome forward our treasurer to offer her treasurer's report.
Hi, everyone. Before I dive into the numbers, I wanted to share a brief recap about 2023. This past year, we outsourced our primary accounting responsibilities to the accounting firm Cherry Beckert and moved to a new asset manager, Goldman Sachs. Both of those teams have helped to modernize and build efficiencies to our system and our financial operations. And this additional support should also enhance our financial reporting available to our staff as well as to our vestry. In 2023, we received more than $2.28 million in operating revenue, and of which nearly half of that came from annual pledges. And as of the end of 2023, the volume of those unpaid pledges was 8.1%. It's typical to receive prior year pledge payments into the following year. So as Toby mentioned, we're still receiving payments on 2023, and we expect that those dollars will bring us closer to our budgeted pledge goal to be able to close 2023. We also collected revenue through non-pledge contributions, offerings, program and event income, space rentals, as well as transfers from our endowment. As you all have heard, we received an extraordinary bequest in 2023 that was more than $6 million from the estate of Dorothy M. Macaulay. And bequests are treated typically as non-operating revenue, and those gifts are invested and managed by our investment committee and our advisor, Goldman Sachs. So to learn more about our investments, you can see the investment committee report in our annual report. Our program expenses increased in 2023, and as a reminder, in 2022, we added full-time clergy as well as shifted the director of music position from full-time to part-time. So while those staff and clergy positions were only partially annualized in 2023, or 2022 rather, the costs were fully realized in last year's operating budget. Are we still only on the first slide? That's where I am. Okay, thank you. I'll let you know when we're moving. Okay. So some of our formation activities were under budget, which did allow us to realize some of those savings. So to go more fully into our operating revenue for 2023, our pledges exceeded $1.129 million, which was exceeding the pledge budget for 2022 by more than $45,000. Of that, 140 households increased their pledge commitment, and more than 45 households were new or returning pledges. The median pledge for 2023 was $1,600. Non-pledge contributions, which are gifts to the church, was $41,416, offertory $125,000. Offertory lagged for the year compared to budget, but we are still completing and reviewing those numbers for 2023, both of those reaching 80 and 95% of their targeted revenues. While pledges have increased year over year, offertory has been decreasing, which is one more slide. We do project that we will be, if you look at this darker blue here, we do project that we will end 2023 on our offertory a little higher. We use all of our projections to be able to budget for next year, so we are hopeful that we can project for 2024 $135,000 in plate offering. If we can go to the next slide, our expenses. So the majority of our 2023 expenses projected at $2.345 million fell into three categories: personnel, building and grounds, and outreach. Other operating expenses include formation, parish life, music, worship, administration. We do also account for unpaid pledges as an expense in our operating budget. St. John's remains a top contributor to our diocese, and we do pledge to the diocese, just like you all pledge to the church. We pledge to the diocese, which also supports a lot of the outreach and the work that the diocese does across the region. We also distributed $106,000 in outreach grants to community organizations, both locally and abroad, in the Holy Land as well as in South Africa, where we've maintained long-standing partnerships. For many years, our practice has been to donate a net 10% of our pledge income directly back through our outreach. So we pledge to our diocese, and we have a pledge to serving our community through our outreach grants. For 2023, we will be completing an audit this year. We expect that that will occur over the summertime. So let's look ahead to 2024. Next slide. In January, the Vestry approved an operating budget with a projected revenue of $2.355 million based on anticipated pledge income, offertory, charitable gifts, event income, again, as well as transfers from our endowment. The following are some of the principal assumptions for expenses and revenue. Our pledge anticipated income is $1.16 million, $40,000 in event income, a 5% draw from our endowment, which is based on a 12-quarter rolling average of that fund's value. That does not include our gift from Macaulay. That was not factored into our calculation. $107,800 for outreach contributions. Again, that's based on our pledge assumption and a net 10%. 3.75% in reserve for unpaid pledges. The diocese recommended a 3.5% in personnel increase. We were excited to be able to give that to our personnel. Personnel includes clergy, staff, and choir. A 10% increase to cover expenses for our buildings and grounds. Increased use of our space with our growing ministries, both on Sunday and during the week, means increased utilities, increased expenses to maintain our historic space. We have been able to boost our formation budgets for new and reinstating initiatives, as well as recognizing that with an inflation and increased costs for many fixed supplies, we need to factor in for that too. So with a proposed operating revenue of $2.355, you'll see that the projected expenses are $2.518. The Vestry approved drawing up to $173,000 from our reserves to balance the budget due to increased revenue and rising costs. As the year continues, we will see how that is projected, but thankfully, because of the Macaulay gift, we don't anticipate needing to draw reserve funds next year. Lastly, St. John's is restoring the bell tower, which you will hear about after me, and that project has its own budget. It's a capital project. It's not part of our day-to-day operating, and so that has a separate budget from our annual operations. That is where I will leave it with you all this morning. Thank you.
Well, good morning. St. John's is embarking on a long-deferred maintenance project to address the deteriorating condition of our bell tower. Over the past year, the project has advanced significantly, and we are poised to start the construction process and launch into public fundraising, thanks to the efforts of our building committee and our fundraising committees for the bell tower, a great project team, and the support of this congregation. So next slide. Last year, I asked you to look up and see the condition of the bell tower and consider the importance of this structure to our congregation. I'm asking you to do the same thing today, but it's a little different because by March, this is what you will see: substantial scaffolding and structures to protect people, during the construction process. As Rob mentioned, you'll have access to the entrance and to the handicapped ramps throughout. So don't worry, you'll still be able to wear your Easter bonnets, not hard hats. Next slide. The bell tower is going to require significant, substantial rehabilitation, and it truly can't wait. Visibly, you can see the signs of progressive failure: peeling paint, rotting or missing wood, patched roof elements, and water intrusion. The project requires replacement of much of the tower's exterior structures, repair of the stucco on the tower's base, and replacement of the dome. The existing slate roof over the church will also be replaced as part of this project. So I'm going to walk you through all the work we've done over the last year, but first I wanted to start by again thanking our building and fundraising committees, particularly Chase Rand and David Galilee, and to everyone on these committees for bringing their remarkable talents. I also wanted to thank the Vestry and the staff for their amazing support through this project, and to Rob for his leadership throughout. Next slide. We've also brought together a really great project team. Bill Gridley and his architectural group at DLR have been leading us through both the architecture and historic preservation process. We brought on board Sean Reagan as our owner's representative, who has been overseeing the day-to-day management of the project and will continue to do so all through construction. Worcester Eisenbrand, the region's top contractor with very specialized experience in historic preservation, is going to be doing the bell tower construction, and J.R. Walls is the contractor for the roofing project. Again, these firms and these people have significant experience and expertise in historic preservation, in working on structures of faith, and working in our very complex urban environment here in Washington. So over the last year, we've walked through all the steps that you see on the slide shown on the right. So one of the big tasks for the building committee was to work with the architect, Bill Gridley, and our owner's rep, Sean Reagan, to accomplish several things. First, we developed a project scope of work. Our goal in doing that work is to restore the tower to meet rigorous historic preservation standards. We're a national historic landmark. We're in a very important historic district. We also wanted to make sure that the materials and the approach result in durable, more easily maintained structure that will benefit us now and will benefit future congregations. Drawings and a work scope were submitted and approved by both the federal and district agencies responsible for historic preservation. And to be able to say that in one sentence rather than in like the multiple months it took to get there is pretty remarkable. Next slide. I did want to note that after considerable research and deliberation, the deteriorated exterior wood elements will be replaced with a milled material known as polyash or boron. It's impervious to water and insects. It's easily milled to match exact historic profiles. It has a life expectancy that far exceeds those of available wood products, and it's cost competitive. We went through the process to ensure that using it meets historic preservation review requirements, and that this material has been used in major historic preservation restoration efforts here in the district and throughout the U.S. Next slide. So here's our schedule. Following these approvals, we obtained bids and selected Worcester Eisenbrand and J.R. Walls as contractors for the bell tower and the roofing projects. We have our building permits secured. We're in process to get what are called public space permits, and we're scheduled to start construction very, very soon. So the scaffolding we think will go up by the end of February. The tower will be under construction from March through August. Once the tower work is done, then we'll start work on the roof, which we hope will be done by November. I put my friend Gumby up here as a reminder that we all need to be flexible. And, so all of you, I think, have probably done a home remodel, and you know that you have to do a lot of contingency planning and be prepared for unexpected surprises. So let's go to the next slide. So let's turn to the fundraising side. The estimated cost of the bell tower is $1.4 million, and re-roofing the church is estimated at around $361,000. That's a total of $1.8 million. Next slide. The Bell Tower Fundraising Committee is working to secure funding from a variety of sources. Last year I told you they were working on the quiet phase of fundraising. So they wanted to make sure that we had a scope of work, that we'd gone through the historic preservation reviews, that we'd gone out to bid, so we had really solid numbers to bring back. So even with that, we've had substantial gifts and pledges from inside and outside the congregation that have already raised over $670,000, and we do have an additional $100,000 grant from Partners for Sacred Spaces. Next slide. So, public fundraising is about to start. Our strategy is going to recognize that substantial donations will be necessary to meet our fundraising goals. There are many people and many groups that have an affinity to this project, whether they love historic preservation, whether they love Washington, D.C.'s history, or even if they love bells. We've received a gift from the Revere Foundation, recognizing that we do have a Revere bell in the tower. It's equally important that we demonstrate the participation and interest of St. John's congregation, and to show that there is great interest community-wide for this project. So very soon we'll be rolling out this public-facing strategy that will include a congregational campaign, an external donors campaign, and support from other philanthropic sources. So, next slide. And I know I've been in Washington, D.C. too long because I put in an Excel joke. So, St. John's Vestry has been great, and they have approved a bridge loan from available assets to cover our near-term construction costs while fundraising continues. We've also set up a system so that we are tracking both gifts and pledges and project expenses and reporting this every month to the Vestry. I really want to thank Sarah McGanity, the Vestry, and the Investment Committee for developing these measures so we can be accountable to you throughout this entire process. So, St. John's Bell Tower is beloved by our congregation, and it has great significance for our local community and for the nation. We are so proud to be stewards of this landmark and to enable future generations to maintain it effectively. It's a continuing privilege and a blessing for me to work on this project in the company of talented people that care deeply about St. John's. I'm pleased to share our progress, and I'm really looking forward to having each of you be part of this exciting project. And before I leave, I'm going to introduce David Galilee, who you will see quite a bit of in the future, to just come up and say a few words. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia. I wanted to stand up so that you could see who I am, and if you have any questions about the bell tower and the fundraising effort, you can come and see me, as well as the great Bell Tower Fundraising Committee, which has been so dedicated and so focused on the bell tower. We're just now completing what we call the silent phase, where we have engaged very generous parishioners, and I know that there are many more generous parishioners out there, as well as members who are not, as well as non-parishioners who are deeply engaged with St. John's, the history of the church, and the greater Lafayette Square community. We've had the Revere Foundation, we've had a former president of the United States contribute, but now the quiet phase, which some might say has been maybe too quiet, is about to come to an end. And to echo Rob, this is a time when we can all be a part of history. So thank you very much. Thank you, Julia.
Well, thank you, Rob, and good morning, everyone. It is really hard for me to believe that my time as senior warden has come to an end. The years have really seemed to fly by. Over the course of the past 12 months, the vestry made great progress on the goals that we set and the plans that we laid at the end of 2022. There's a full written report that I will not repeat, but just let me highlight a few examples. First of all, is the creation of the St. John's Historic Preservation Foundation. That foundation provides a vehicle for individuals and institutions that will not make donations to religious organizations, but will make donations benefiting religious organizations if the purpose is a non-religious one, like historic preservation. Given our storied history as the Church of the Presidents, our prime location across from the White House, and as we just discussed, our priceless Revere Bell, we have every expectation that the creation of the foundation will spur significant donations over the years that will help to preserve and maintain our historic buildings and grounds far into the distant future. And I won't comment on the Bell Project further, except to say that the success of the quiet phase and the fact that we have the notable contributions outside the parish that both David and Julia mentioned, needless to say, augurs very well for the public phase of the campaign, and the foundation will be helpful in that regard. A plan has been developed to earn additional revenue from proactive efforts to rent out our gorgeous Togo West parlor for mission-appropriate events, like, for example, wedding receptions and intimate salon dinners, like those that the White House Historical Association occasionally hosts here at St. John's. As you heard in passing from Sarah, in a continuing effort to update and streamline our back office operations and processes, which frees up our limited staff to spend their limited time on higher order things, we've outsourced our bookkeeping and accounting functions to a well-regarded local firm. We've also transitioned to a new commercial bank that provides better customer service and lower transaction fees. We've also put in place a process to select a new auditor and to get us back on an annual audit cycle. And as you've also heard, we've selected and transitioned to a new investment firm, Goldman Sachs. And just in the last few months, we have been so impressed by not just the sage investment advice that one would expect from Goldman, but also by their being incredibly responsive and collegial. And speaking of investments, as you also heard, with deep gratitude to the late Dorothy McCauley for what really was a life-changing gift, this $6.5 million as of today bequest, Rob, working with the vestry, has put in place a process to discern how best to invest and deploy those funds so as to benefit our parish and those we support for centuries to come. And finally, speaking of gratitude, I leave you today with thankfulness for the honor and pleasure of having served as your senior warden for these past few years. And as I wrote in our written report, I leave you today in the extremely capable hands of Nora Rigby and Alfred Tesmar, and I will look forward very much to watching the progress that they and Rob and the entire vestry will be making in the years ahead, and to supporting them and all of you in any way possible. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're working. All right, so I have a few images to share with you all, but I want to start with reminding us all of our mission statement. St. John shines as a beacon of God's love through faith, worship, care, and community, and offers a place of grace at our historic corner in the nation's capital. I want to say, actually, a word about what a saint is. This is one of my favorite phrases. This is the proper preface in the Book of Common Prayer for a saint. We are a church, not a saint, but we're named after a patron saint, St. John's, and I think that churches have a role, like saints, of being beacons, being, in the world, but connected to something above the world, to transmit and to draw people to the love of God. I love this phrasing. It says, praying for saints, for the wonderful grace and virtue declared in all your saints, who have been the chosen vessels of your grace and the lights of the world in their generations. What a thing to aspire to be. And so when we talk about grace and the grace of St. John's that we share, it's actually important to remember, technically, it's not our grace, it's God's grace. But it is our place to be the ones to make sure it gets shared. So in thinking of how do we live this out with our life together, there are four, at least, major thrusts, things that we're a part of: fellowship, worship, learning, and service. So just a few things from the last 12 months to reflect on things that we have done in all of these categories. Fellowship, I love this picture. This is our brand new, I guess it's our newest fellowship group. Actually, the Lafayette Fellowship is starting right around the same time. This is our LGBTQ plus fellowship group. I hear that there's going to be a new name, but so far we're sticking with all the letters. This is our Latrobe Fellowship, meeting on a rooftop one beautiful evening. Fellowship happens it doesn't only happen when it's programmed, just when we're together, fellowship happens. Fellowship happens every single Sunday. This is one of the Sundays in Advent when people got together and built Advent wreaths. This is actually from the ministry fair a few months ago. From the ministry fair again. I couldn't resist. I love this picture. This is actually before Lafayette got relaunched. Lafayette Fellowship is for those who are 40-plus-ish, because the Latrobe Fellowship is 20s, 30s-ish, so Lafayette is 40s-plus-ish, and these are sort of the leaders who step forward to make it happen, and I believe they've already had a few gatherings and more planned. This is a wonderful part of our fellowship in the life of St. John's. The Sisters of St. John's, it's our women's fellowship group. We have, and this is from the retreat. I think I got a text that might pertain to the presentation. So David Evans, if you want to text me again, text me again. Okay. This is from the Gay Pride Parade, for people gathering. This year was a new edition with the pink shirts. Worship at St. John's, I couldn't resist. This is actually from like 13 months ago, but isn't that the best? May the peace of the Lord be always with you, from the friendly beast. Worship is really the heart of all we do. We gather in this holy space to do holy things, to hear sermons, to gather around the table, to share the bread and the wine. I've pointed this out. I know we're not the only church that has this, and other rectors point this out at their churches, but isn't it really wonderful that we know there are people in this room who during the week, Monday through Friday, do battle against each other, and yet you come together and kneel side by side and receive the bread and the wine, sometimes giving it to each other. I think that is a beautiful thing, an important thing. It's part of who we are and part of our witness. We baptized many people this year. There were also many confirmations this year. Let's give a little appreciation to our music. And all of our musicians deserve our praise. But while we're at it, I think we should give a special recognition to our director of music, Brent Erstadt, and the fantastic job. Being St. John's, interesting things come our way you can never predict. This isn't the only one. You'll see at least one other slide that's crazy like this. We were asked if we would host the consecration of a bishop. This never happens with churches. When bishops become consecrated or ordained, it's usually at a cathedral, but there happens to be one special bishop in our country who oversees all of those who minister in the armed forces. And this is the brand newly ordained bishop for the armed forces for the Episcopal Church, whose name is Anne Ratonia. The presiding bishop was going to do the consecration, but sadly he was too ill to be here to do it. But this church was filled for this very special opportunity. And actually, that is Anna Broadbent, who is Sean Evelyn's wife, who is a chaplain in the Army. You can see her in the red stole over on that side. Learning is something people at St. John's love to do. This was a highlight moment of this last year. We got to welcome Dr. Tony Fauci to be here. But this is, almost every Sunday during the program year, we get to hear somebody offer valuable, fascinating, important insights that they share. Sometimes it's about faith, sometimes it's civic life, sometimes it's completely other things. And if you haven't been partaking, I recommend it to you. We do it at the 10 o'clock hour in between the 9 and the 11 o'clock services. Learning happens for all ages. And Sarah Aix-Cardwell, who I see in the wings, is doing an incredible job working with children and families. You can see the work, the planning, and the execution that she is putting into all of it. When you see kids, by the way, leave during part of the service and they go and have children's chapel, this is what it looks like. There's often singing, there's definitely praying, there's sometimes some stuffed animals involved. It's a beautiful thing that we get to do on a regular basis, and a relatively new thing that we've been implementing. And one of the things that Sarah came up with that has also been a beautiful idea is having the kids learn from adults about various ministries that take place in the church, like being an usher, being on the flower guild, and you can see they're learning how to do flower arrangements. Our youth group is doing beautifully. This was them bowling a few weeks ago. This is them making Advent wreaths, and I don't know who let them in the kitchen working with that, but yeah, I think everyone's okay. This was another highlight for this year, too, to have the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, be here. It was a very special day, and if you want to hear his talk, it is on our podcast. Here's another aspect of learning, and it actually kind of shows how the different categories that I mentioned do kind of blend. You know, this is fellowship as well as learning, as well as other things. We offered a new course for the first time called Being With. Comes out of England from Sam Wells, who's at St. Martin in Fields in London. The person who's with Will in this picture is actually James Fawcett, who is the person globally who leads Being With and equips churches all over the world to run this course. And he happened to be with us last Sunday here at church. And so I took a picture of the two of them together, and we're going to run Being With again in the spring, and then we're going to do it in the fall and the spring just from now on. It's a great way for people to deepen their faith and to get to know each other better, as well as explore how to better be with God in their lives. Service is a big part of St. John's. It's an important part of the life of our community. This is just one example. A lot of the service that we do, we don't have photos of, but we do have a few. This is our refugee committee. I think this is such a beautiful ministry, setting up homes and preparing them for people who are moving here as refugees. Often it takes a lot of legwork acquiring furniture and items that people are going to need, but it's also the work of cleaning and preparing lovingly a space for people to move in. This is pastoral care folks, also people you don't often see all gathered together, but here they are at a training. And you may not know this, but we have a prayer list at St. John's that their pastoral care ministry team will pray every day for the people on those lists. So if you go to a clergy member or to Jack Reifer or someone you may know who's part of the committee, you can put a name on that list and we'll be guaranteed that that person gets prayed for every day. It can be totally confidential. This was a beautiful experience in the winter. Just before Christmas, we always do a huge toy drive, our Angel Tree project, and there's a big wrapping festival that takes place, and the presents all get wrapped and packed up and sent out to people who are in need. And we actually do a pretty good job, for the most part, of getting people the things that they specifically asked for, which is a great way to honor those people who are looking to have a warmer Christmas. Another thing, again, is it service? Is it fellowship? Is it something else? We have a relationship with Sharon Denny, who is a remarkable human being. She's a priest in South Africa, and her school that she created is called Kwasa. It's called Kwasa College. We have supported them and loved them for years, and she was able to come and visit us a few months ago with some of the students and one of her fellow administrators. And a bunch of St. John's people got to gather and have some fun and go around town with them. You can see, and this is the really exciting thing I get to kind of promote here. We actually already have, I think, 16 or so people that have raised their hand and shown interest, but now's the time. We're going to do our first trip to Kwasa in a number of years this year. So it'll be this summer, 2024. The dates for the core part of the trip is going to be August 3rd through 10th. Now, some of us, I'm going to go with my family, and some of us are going to plan to stay later. Once you get all the way to Africa, you might want to see a little more. But we're going to have the core part of the trip August 3rd through 10th. And if that works with your calendar, and if you're up for what could be a life-changing experience, I hope you'll consider joining us and coming along. Outreach ministries, as you heard our treasurer Sarah explain, we basically tithe what is pledged. So we look at all that is pledged, and then we subtract the amount that, there's always some that doesn't come in, so we have the great word pledge shrinkage. But the final number we end up taking, and we give 10% of that away. That's how we set the outreach budget. And it's in recent years, it's been more than $100,000 each year. And we give it away to many different great causes, local and far. Education, local ministries that we support in major ways, communities, in schools in our nation's capital, in Bishop Walker School. We support internationally Kwasa College, which you've just heard about, and the Diocese of Jerusalem, which is an incredibly important ministry to support at this time especially. Support for the poor, there's the Christmas Drive, also known as the Angel Tree Project. There's Grace's Table, which is a feeding ministry, the Refugee Resettlement Ministry. Equity and Justice Ministries, we support Downtown Cluster of Congregations, Samaritan Ministry of Greater Washington, and Washington Interfaith Network, also known as WIN. New initiatives. If you haven't been on our website recently, you'll find that it's been completely overhauled, and it looks really terrific. It's also easier to use. You can find what you need more quickly. Another great new initiative, assuming most, if not all of you were here at the 10:30 service, you would have heard our choristers singing. That's a brand new initiative that we have. And we have the older choristers, and we also have the St. Cecilia Choir, which is our younger kids. And it is something I'm very proud of, that we are now expanding this activity of music across even more generations. Another thing, and you heard the senior warden, or used to be senior warden, until a few minutes ago, senior warden Clark described that we're very excited to take advantage of this incredible resource we have as a beautiful, renovated space. Very few places that you could potentially have a gathering where you literally can look out of the window and see Lafayette Park and see the White House. And without any advertising, people have already been kind of knocking on our door, interested in coming and using the space. But we're deciding to get very serious about it and to actually go to the professionals to make sure that we do everything in the smartest way possible, so that it'll cause the least headache possible and also be a win-win, so that people in the community can cross the threshold and experience the blessing of this incredible space. And also it will help us with revenue, because revenue is always a need for any church, including us. And so if you go to the website, you'll actually be able to see it. We've got pictures of our rooms that are available to rent. And it's something that if any parishioners want if you're affiliated with some organization and that you think that organization might enjoy having an event here, you can talk to us and we'll have a special parishioner rate, of course. And this is just a little example. This is one of those, like, only at St. John's. You probably are wondering, what on earth is going on? The White House Historical Association called us up and they said, we want to do an event on a Friday night. This was a week and a half ago. We want to do an event on a Friday night. Sure, what'll it be? They've been great in the past. They've brought people in and loved our space and used it beautifully. And this particular event, it turns out, is a thank you event that they do from time to time for military social aides who are stationed in the White House. Who, as part of what their duty is that they, greet people. They heads of state when they come, they're highly trained, and they did a whole day of training at the White House, and then they walked across the park to a nice reception that was thrown by the White House Historical Association, but in our space. And then, as if that wasn't interesting enough, we had a surprise visitor who was Abraham Lincoln. And if you had met him, you wouldn't believe it. This is a calling for this individual. And before everybody showed up, he said, I really want to get a tour of the church with the rector. And so I gave him a tour. He was in character the whole time. And you better believe he sat in the Lincoln pew and said some prayers. We have heard about the bell tower. It is really exciting that we're finally at this place, and I'm so grateful for all of the leaders who have been a part of bringing us. It's a multifaceted project. It's not an easy project, but it's really important for not just us, but for our community. And here's just a fun image to share. You may or may not recognize the handwriting, but that's a personal letter from George W. Bush saying that he and Laura were thrilled to participate and to give a very generous gift. And this was a very special and important church in their lives when they were here in Washington, so it's a nice thing. I want to say a couple words about the Holy Land. We had this trip in the fall that many of us got to go on. There's a lot to say about it. I'm just going to say a little bit and show a few images. This image is a very special one. This is actually, when you hear the story of the Good Samaritan, it took place here. This is a cliff looking down on the treacherous road between Jerusalem and Jericho. And it is a rough wilderness area, and it was a dangerous place in Jesus' time where bandits would be able to hide and then jump out, and that's what happens in the story to the person who is beaten up and left for dead, and the Samaritan comes. And we got to experience the wilderness of that place. And then this is the old city. This is in Jerusalem. This is from up on the ramparts. You can walk around the top of the fence or the wall that goes around the old city, and you can see the Dome of the Rock there in the distance. It's dense. It is old. It is multi-layered. This is Paul Barquette, who was the coordinator and the organizer of our trip, who did an incredible job. And here he is on the Temple Mount. This is somebody you've probably heard me talk about, and you may have heard Luis talk about. He is a friend of St. John's, and he has been the leader of all of our trips for probably 20 years, I think it is. His name is Iyad Kumri. He is the person who you've heard about. He knows people all throughout, and he will say, well, this is my cousin. And then after about 3 or 4 days, you realize they can't all be his cousins. But that joke actually has a serious meaning to it. It's kinship, it's family, it's connections across human lives. And this is his son, Rami. Rami is actually stepping into the business with his dad, and I think he's eventually going to take it over. Rami is a wonderful soul. Went to college in the United States and has moved back to Israel, Palestine. And this is our whole group. This is with the people from Christ Church, Georgetown. That's in the Garden of Gethsemane, with some familiar faces. This is the synagogue in Capernaum. This is actually the newer one. This is the 4th century synagogue built over the old synagogue, which you can see the foundations of, the dark stone. You can still kind of see it. And this is standing above Peter's house and looking back. It's so close. And you can see, like you can imagine this was a whole neighborhood, which is in the process of being unearthed. This is if you look to the right after that last image, and you can see the Sea of Galilee there. It's right on the water. And that is the Sea of Galilee, which is such a pleasant place. It's nice to be on the shore side. And I had to throw this in. It's just fun. All of the signage is really great in the Holy Land. It just says, no picnic. I'm thinking it's not a picnic. Inside churches, at the doors of the churches, they often says, like, do not explain inside. There's like a whole sermon there, you know. Now, of course, this means tour groups need to be quiet and not do a lot of explaining inside the church, but do not explain. This is in the Old City. This is one of the typical streets, and this is what it looks like in a typical time on a typical day. This is what it looked like on, I think it was October 10th. This is unheard of. This is a view that is hard to believe compared to normal times. And, you know, among many people who are affected, I think about all of those shop owners whose livelihoods have just been completely disrupted. It was a really sad experience to walk, and it was no one there except for a few cats. These are the last few pictures of this, but I felt compelled to share this image. This is actually the backside of the Holy Sepulchre, probably the most important church there is in the whole world for Christianity, the Holy Sepulchre. And this is just a classic picture of what you find in the Holy Land. You get layers upon layers, and you can just imagine there's a story for every single stone that is laid upon every other single stone. And you could probably spend a lifetime and just continue exploring and learning and going deeper. It's complex. It's in times like now, it is disturbing and upsetting, but there's also this rich quality of life. There is something that draws many of us to the place and the people, and we will be having trips in the future. I don't know how soon. I'm guessing maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years, we'll be going back. And I really encourage you, if you feel a stirring, I encourage you to explore coming on the next pilgrimage that we do. And this is the last Holy Land slide of all. It's important for me to share because we see in the news, when you see imagery of the people, especially Palestinians, what you're seeing is people who are in extreme circumstances. You're seeing people screaming and wailing over dead loved ones. You're seeing people who are angry and are shouting. When we were there, we were with Palestinian people primarily for about 10, 11 days. And this picture just kind of evokes normal people. Remember, these are people just like all of us who are going through the things that they're going through. This man has a little shop in the Old City, and I wanted to get a shirt from him. And we ended up talking to him for like 45 minutes, and he became a cousin to us. And so do please pray for them and what you can do. Think of ways that we can be of support, and we will continue as a church being a strong supporter of the Diocese of Jerusalem, which on behalf of the Episcopal Church is doing important, needed work. Now, almost to the end, I want to share with you something. You've already heard about this, but this is Dorothy Mahana Macaulay. She was a longtime member of St. John's. My understanding, we do have some people that remember her and that have been able to share with me about what she was like. I think she was someone who didn't draw a lot of attention to herself. She just quietly came to church, and she was faithful and loyal, and to our surprise, she put St. John's into her will in a way where after her final heir passed away, to our surprise, we got all that remained. And that, when we first learned about it, was 1.6 million. It was just a few months ago, and thanks to favorable conditions, it's already $6.55 million, which is astounding. We will be carefully discerning how we use this gift to the best possible use. But one thing that we are committed to doing that is total agreement on is we believe it was her wish that half will go to outreach. So we're going to make sure dedicating half of it to outreach, which can be diversified in different ways, that money will support outreach. I want to put out, just to help with some understanding of how this money might change our life going forward or be a benefit to us. But remember, this is purely hypothetical. These decisions are still in process. But just to give you an idea, one thing we've talked about is creating an endowment for buildings. It seems to make a lot of sense. Sarah didn't point this out in her treasury report, but it is astounding how expensive it is for us to maintain these national treasure buildings that we have been entrusted to keep up. And it just gets more expensive every year. It's about $500,000 of our budget every year just to keeping our buildings in shape. And if we can do it with a little more planning ahead, we're going to save more money in the future. Our bell tower project wouldn't be as expensive, for example, if we were able to chip away more in a timely way throughout the time. So to endow buildings, it would make a lot of sense. And hypothetically, if we were to put $2 million or more, 5% draw on a corpus of that would be $100,000 or more. We're also thinking of endowing outreach, something that, like taking care of our buildings, is something that we are perpetually committed to doing. And if we do some of this work, do some endowing, we can do what we're doing, and do all that we're doing, and do more, and also see some relief on our budget day to day, so that pledge dollars can go further to support the mission and ministry and all the things that we need to support. And so, to do this important work, we have two committees that I have formed. One is the overall committee, and the chair is Lauren Edwards, who is right here. She's the chair of that committee, and Richard Metzger and Rob Mosbacher are the two other members of that committee. If you know these three individuals, you know we are in excellent hands to do this discernment. They're going to take the next few months, do this discernment work. They're going to do some listening, some studying, some creative thinking, I believe, and then they're going to present scenarios to the Vestry, and the Vestry at the Vestry retreat in April will discern which way to go, which scenarios to accept. And we are also having an opportunity. It's a golden opportunity for us to do something that we've wanted to do anyway, and now we really have the means to do it, which is to discern how we can look at our history in an important way. We tell the stories of our history all the time, but we don't always tell the full history of this church, and we want to understand more fully just our relationship with the Black community, especially, and we want to look for ways where we can do, hopefully, inspiring work, hopefully joyful work to lift up the lives of people in our community, specifically the lives of those who are Black surrounding this area. And so that is some of the work to repair the breach. I've been having a lot of conversations with people, and what I'm hearing and feeling among people at St. John's is that this kind of work is something that we can be proud of and that we can dig into in a way that will be celebratory. And I pray may even be an example and be a way that we can be an example for other churches, especially churches of size. And so I have asked Desiree Davis-Stoller and the Reverend Will Morris to be co-chairs of this committee. And we have, all who have agreed to serve on the committee are Clark Irvin, Anthony Pegues, Ann Stewart, Audrey Trotman, Gail West. Oh, and Gail West. She's the last one. So that concludes the main part, but we've got some thank yous now to offer. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, the people online didn't know they could vote.
Yeah, so the vote tallies are really close.
Oh.
So they're hoping.
Here, why don't you announce it?
This is off. This microphone's off.
Okay. The vote tallies are really close. I should speak to the camera. Those who are online and haven't voted can vote.
It's in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Is that it?
And we apologize.
Okay, thank you.
The online voting was not working.
Oh,
So it apparently is now, I believe. And so how long do you want to hold it open?
can we do 5 minutes? Is that enough?
Yes.
Excellent.
We'll do 5 minutes and then we'll tally it up.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I want to offer some thanks. We have 3 vestry members who are going off of the vestry now. If you wouldn't mind coming up, all 3 of you. So Lori, Anthony, and Carl. Oh, Lori's a teller. She's counting votes. Anthony was here. I don't see him now. Well. Okay. Carl, thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay. So we want to give thanks to both of our wardens. Let's give them some appreciation. If you both could come forward. Mic back on. Okay, so Nora, you are still on the vestry, but you just finished your term as junior warden, and I've got a little special thing from Jerusalem for you. And you probably can't guess what this is, but I'm honored to be able to give this to you, and thank you for your service. It has been such a joy and a blessing. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes at the annual meeting, I have a little surprise recognition that I like to give for an individual who's gone way above and beyond. And there is an individual that I want to honor that I hope is in the room. Is she not in the room? Okay, take just a minute to breathe. This individual does a lot around the church, so I'm not surprised that she is running around making things happen. It'll blow the surprise a little bit. Oh, somebody didn't see. Oh, okay. The surprise is blown. But okay, this individual came to St. John's many years ago to be a professional singer in our choir. And she was not an Episcopalian at the time, but over the years, something happened. This place worked on her and has become a very important part of her life, and she has become a very important part of our life. She's become an Episcopalian. She's actually even formally become a member of the church. And I just want to tell you, those of you who know, but maybe not everybody knows, just how beautifully she serves, going above and beyond in all kinds of ways, supporting music ministry, but supporting me personally as an assistant to me, supporting just wherever there is a need, she is there, and she is making sure that things happen, and she is bringing a joy about her, a sense of fun, and I think more than anything else, a sense of love. And so, got a little special gift to honor you. Lisa Kaler, come on. Surprise. Here's your card. I have one other surprise. Another surprise, special appreciation. This is somebody who stays sort of under the radar. This is somebody who, in recent months, had it come upon her that she had to really step up, and actually, for a time, was doing really two people's job. And she did it with grace, with good cheer throughout. She has been a pleasure to have on this staff since day one when she arrived, and she's going back to her regular role, but I want to give a big thanks to Charlie Griffin for all that you have done. That's from Jerusalem. Okay, well, I think we've come to the moment, and I'm looking for Matt and the tellers. Do we have? Well, while we wait, Preston, why don't you come into the room? We're going to welcome you back. Welcome back, Preston. Okay, well, Harker, this is your part.
I'll look forward to announcing the results when we have them.
All right, well, take 5, talk amongst yourselves, and pretty soon we'll have those results. Okay, everybody. I have not gotten an update on the election yet. Oh, here comes Anthony. Was it rigged? No, too soon. Do we have results? Oh, okay. I was just about to disband us, and we were going to find out at the reception.
The vote was very close, but I'm pleased to announce that the new Vestry members will be Kay Edwards, Jack Reifer, and Jess Unger. And I was reminded to announce that the senior warden and junior warden elections went as expected. Nora Rigby and Alfred Tesmore.
Thank you all for your time and your attention for this good annual meeting, and thanks for all who supported and helped in many, many ways. We're going to close with a closing prayer, and then as soon as that is finished, we have a meal all prepared and ready and waiting for everybody. So please join us in Togo West Parlor after the prayer.
I'm going to offer a prayer attributed to St. Francis. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.